Trucker of the Sky, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Zay, collectively known as SoCal Uncensored or
SCU! This is Catch, Hook, and Shoot, the worst podcast I've ever been on. Word.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Today is Sunday, February the 9th. I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, and subscribing on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, any place you find your podcast. Just look up Catch, Hook, and Shoot. You'll be able to find the show. Thank you also for following on social media on all platforms. You can find the show at Catch Hook Shoot. Head over to patreon.com/Catch Hook Shoot for bonus content and prowrestlingtees.com/Catch Hook Shoot for all your t-shirt needs. If you ever want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com for all your questions, comments, anything you might want to say about the show. So let's dive right in this week. Got a lot of stuff going on in the world of pro wrestling, and we're starting it all off like we always do with our match of the week. The match of the week this week comes from AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday, and it was an 8-man tag team match between members of the Elite, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Adam Page versus the Butcher and the Blade, and the Lucha Brothers. I know a lot of people not super high on this match, calling it a spot fest and things like that, but when you got the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers in there, that's kind of to be expected. That's their style. That's what they do. They're high flyers. They do the big aerial spots and things like that. And, I thought the match told a pretty good story. I mean, especially with all of the dissension among the Elite members. Hangman Page pretty much refusing to tag the Young Bucks throughout this match, and ended up taking the pin because of that, because he would not tag out to one of the Bucks, and just furthering that dissension in that division with Page and the rest of the Elite. And like I said, I think it told a really, really good story to further that particular storyline. So my pick for match of the week, if you have not seen it, go check it out. The Elite versus the Butcher, the Blade, and the Lucha Brothers from AEW Dynamite this past week. So next up on the show is one of our newer features, and it's basically my top highlights of the week, and it is called the 3 Count. So first up on the 3 Count, it has finally been confirmed that Killer Kross has signed with WWE. It was confirmed by Ryan Satin on WWE Backstage this past week. And, not a total surprise. I think a lot of people expected him to sign with WWE, if for no other reason than just the fact that Scarlett Bordeaux is part of NXT. And I think most people know by now, Killer Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux are a couple. So makes sense that he would sign where she is. But also, I think Killer Kross is one that WWE, if they choose to, can use very well. Now, whether he's going to be in NXT or on Raw or SmackDown remains to be seen. I think he would fit in pretty well anywhere if they use him. If they use him well, like I said. Now, there was some speculation online about possibly his name changing. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, especially if he ends up on Raw or SmackDown. Just the name Killer, I don't think is going to fly on Raw or SmackDown, just because of some of the rules that they have there, I guess you could say. Same thing along the lines of the War Raiders. They had to drop the War from their name because it's just. I don't know if it's a Vince McMahon thing, if it's a network thing, whatever it is, but, terms like War and Killer and stuff like that just don't fly on Raw and SmackDown. Now, there were also people saying, oh, well, there's, Killer Kelly's in NXT UK. Well, that's NXT UK. They're not on a major network here in the US. They're on the WWE network, so there's a little more freedom, a little more flexibility, things like that there. Now, if Kross ends up in NXT, I think he'll probably retain the Killer Kross name for at least a little while, but if he ends up on Raw or SmackDown, I think you're more than likely to see his name change to Kevin Kross, which Kevin is his real first name. So that's my prediction for that one as far as Killer Kross's name goes. But bottom line, Killer Kross now part of the WWE. Number 2 on the 3 count, Cody Rhodes taking his lashes from MJF this past week on AEW Dynamite. This was it was hard to watch, and I think that was the point. I mean, MJF really laid those lashes in. Wardlow even took one of them. I mean, Cody had just massive welts on his back, and even drew blood at some points, and seeing the heels come out to watch, and then the baby faces come down to support Cody. It was it did what it was supposed to do. It got people's emotions going, and it really, I think, really added something to this storyline with Cody and MJF. It wasn't just violence for the sake of violence, and it definitely made the point that it set out to make. And I thought it was a good segment. Like I said, it was hard to watch, but that was the point. So Cody taking his lashes, definitely a highlight of the week, and did a lot to advance the storyline for Cody and MJF. And of course, next up for Cody is the cage match with Wardlow, which will be Wardlow's in-ring debut for AEW. Can't wait to see that one in a couple of weeks. And number 3 on the 3 count, the Velveteen Dream made his return on NXT, taking out the Undisputed Era, particularly Roderick Strong. Velveteen, did a little bit of a Rick Rude routine with, the tights he was wearing had a picture of Strong's wife, Marina Shafir, as well as his son. And definitely, trying to get in the head of Roderick Strong. Of course, Roderick Strong in storyline, the one that injured Velveteen, put him out, things like that. So, great to see Velveteen Dream back on NXT. So, moving into the news and rumors for the week, starting off with the WWE, we saw Ruby Riott return on Raw after a match with Liv Morgan and Lana. Came out, looked like she was going to be congratulating, kind of reuniting with Liv Morgan, and then pulled the classic swerve and attacked Liv. So looks like we're going to be getting Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan sometime in the future, which I think is great. I think that is a good storyline. There's a great story to be told there. So Ruby and Liv, I'm all for this one. I'm loving it so far, even though it's just started. We also saw Rhea Ripley make an appearance on Raw to challenge Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Now, this, of course, was a rumor that's been going around for a while that Charlotte's going to be taking on Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania with her title opportunity that she earned by winning the Women's Royal Rumble. So there wasn't really an answer for the challenge, but it was laid down, so the seed was planted, and Charlotte did show up on NXT on Wednesday. We'll get into that in a couple of minutes. Also, we found out Ricochet will be challenging Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship at Super Showdown coming up later this month. And, I'll say, same thing I've been saying about Brock Lesnar. He is capable of putting on some very good matches, even with some undersized opponents. I'll go back again to his match with Finn Balor. So I think Ricochet and Lesnar can put on a very good match if it's booked that way. Hopefully it's not booked as another 5-second squash match for Lesnar, because those add no value to anything other than to kind of devalue the talent that's getting squashed. So hopefully this is a good match between these two. It definitely has that potential. We also found out this week on Raw, I'm going to be seeing an 8-man tag team match. Seth Rollins, Buddy Murphy, and the AOP taking on Kevin Owens, the Viking Raiders, and a returning Samoa Joe. So a lot of rumors flying around that the reason Joe went out with the quote-unquote injury was because he was going to be getting suspended due to a wellness violation. Apparently that's not the case, because he did make his in-ring return earlier in the week at a house show, and he's going to be making his Raw return this coming week. So, that rumor apparently has been killed, at least for the moment. Another rumor floating around out there that Shayna Baszler is going to be making her Raw debut, if not this week, then very soon. The rumored match is Shayna versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Championship at WrestleMania. So if that is true, then I would expect to see Shayna on Raw sooner rather than later. I mean, with more than likely in the next couple of weeks. Moving on to NXT, like I said, we did see Charlotte come out and, talking to the NXT crowd, got interrupted by Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, got a beatdown from those two, and still didn't really get an answer as far as the WrestleMania challenge. So I'm sure they're gonna, stretch this one out a little bit more. But I'm here for the match between Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. So I'm, hopeful that that's going to be what we see at WrestleMania. But first, Rhea Ripley would have to get past Bianca Belair at Takeover Portland, because that is her next challenger for the NXT Women's title. And apparently, they have abandoned the idea of not using gender-specific titles when it comes to NXT. They did start referring to Rhea Ripley's championship as the Women's Championship again. So they tried it out for a couple of weeks and didn't get the best response. I didn't think it was a bad idea, but they apparently didn't get the response they were looking for. So they're going back to referring to Rhea Ripley as the NXT Women's Champion rather than just the NXT Champion. Moving on to SmackDown. Saw the return of Goldberg to SmackDown, and I don't think it was quite what everybody expected. I think people were expecting him to be in the arena, but he was talking via satellite and basically laid down a challenge to The Fiend for the Universal Championship, and that match is going to take place at Super Showdown as well. Yeah, I know some people are kind of wary about this one. They're thinking that Goldberg's going to be, going to win and take the title off The Fiend. But another rumor that's circulating out there is it's going to be more or less along the lines of the Seth Rollins Fiend match, where the Fiend won the Universal title. That the Fiend is going to take quite a few spears and jackhammers, but ultimately come out the victor in this match. So, and I think that's more than likely what's going to happen. I don't see Goldberg winning the Universal title, and I don't see Goldberg versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I just don't see it. I think the fans would completely reject that match. They want to see the Fiend in that main event spot. So I'm hoping WWE is going to keep him there, but you never know. Another match for Super Showdown that was announced on SmackDown was Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns one more time, this time in a steel cage. So yeah, I think a lot of fans are getting tired of this rivalry. You don't see rivalries being dragged out for this long anymore. I don't think it's a bad thing having a long rivalry, but this one just hasn't caught my attention. I'm not a huge Baron Corbin fan. I don't think he's bad. I'm not going to say he's a bad wrestler or even a bad heel or anything like that, because he is good. It just the whole King gimmick is one that I never really never really caught my attention, even when it was like Harley Race and Haku and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and even the Macho Man. The King gimmick just never grabbed me. So, but it is what it is. Roman versus Corbin in a cage at Super Showdown. Also on SmackDown, they crowned a new number one contender for the SmackDown Women's title, and that is Carmella. So she'll be facing off against Bayley at some point coming up. I don't see this as a WrestleMania match. I don't see them stretching this one out that long, but there's rumors that it could happen at Super Showdown. And it wouldn't be unprecedented. I mean, the last Super Showdown, there was the match between Natalya and Lacey Evans that kind of broke that barrier of the women's matches in Saudi Arabia. So Carmella versus Bayley could be the next women's match in Saudi Arabia for the SmackDown Women's title. We'll have to wait and see. Some miscellaneous WWE news. In addition to Killer Kross signing, WWE has also signed Timothy Thatcher, most recently seen on MLW. Fantastic in-ring talent. Can't wait to see what they're going to be doing with him. I would say more than likely, we're going to see him in NXT. Also announced WWE has signed their first full-time African-American woman referee, which is huge, and that is Aja Smith. And so congratulations to her. That's another barrier broken. So yeah, can't wait to see Aja Smith start making some 3 counts, and I'm sure she'll start off in NXT. So yeah, looking forward to her debut. Some other WWE news from the investors call this past week. Apparently WWE is in talks to sell the streaming rights to their pay-per-views to another quote-unquote major streaming service. They weren't specific as to what service it was. A lot of speculation that it could be Amazon, could be ESPN Plus, could be the NBC Peacock app that's going to be coming out this year. But if it's going to happen, Vince said, the announcement would be made sometime in the first quarter, which is coming up pretty quickly. I mean, the first quarter of 2020 would end next month in March. So if that announcement's going to be made, it should be within the next several weeks or so. So keep an eye out for that. Now, I would expect it would just be pay-per-views, WWE pay-per-views. I would expect that NXT takeovers and things like that would stay on the network, because that's pretty much their bread and butter. But yeah, I mean, it's all about money, guys, is what it is. It's whatever's going to make the WWE the most money. So if they're going to make more by selling the rights to those shows to an Amazon or to an NBC or something like that, that's what they're going to do. Now, what I'm curious about is if they do sell those rights, is it going to be a case where we're going to have to order individual pay-per-views again for, $50, $60, $70 a pop? Or is it going to be a case where, okay, NBC now has the rights to WWE pay-per-views, so do we have to pay for the the $6.99 or $9.99, whatever it is, subscription to the NBC streaming service, and they're just part of that service? So yeah, a lot of questions to be answered on this one, which I'm sure we'll find out in the coming weeks. Some interesting, kind of sad news out of NXT. Apparently, Tainara Conti has walked out of NXT over some type of contractual dispute. The speculation is it was financial. So yeah, like I said, kind of sad news. Tainara, really good talent. Hopefully her walking out of NXT does not mean she's walking out of wrestling, because, from the little bit that we did see of her on television, I thought she was very good. So, I would love to see her pop up in an Impact or possibly AEW, even MLW, since they're, trying to build up their new women's division. So, hopefully she shows back up somewhere else. But as of right now, Tainara Conti out of NXT. Another tidbit out of WWE, it seems like another wrestler has lost half of their name. Buddy Murphy apparently now is just going to be known as Murphy, and the thinking behind that apparently is, Vince McMahon just didn't like the name Buddy for a heel or for a disciple or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, Buddy Murphy is now just Murphy. So it is what it is. Yet another wrestler loses half of their name. Yeah, I honestly, I just think Vince has something against guys with two names, but that's just me. And probably my favorite rumor of the week going around in WWE is regarding Sting. And there was a lot of speculation that about Sting signing a new contract with WWE, having one more match. A lot of word going around is that he has been cleared for one more match, and there was some reports that he was at the Royal Rumble event in Houston negotiating a new deal. Apparently they wanted him for Super Showdown. That didn't happen, because they've got Goldberg on Super Showdown, so I'm sure there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of decision making, trying to figure out what to do with who. If they're bringing back Sting and Goldberg, I can see them not wanting to put them both on the same show. But yeah, the rumor now is that we could potentially be seeing the dream match that a lot of fans, like myself, have been clamoring for over 20 years, and that is Sting versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Now, this match has been rumored many, many times over the years, and Sting has said himself the only match that he would come out of retirement for is The Undertaker. So, I can't see WWE offering him anything less. At least I hope they didn't. I hope he didn't sign for anything less than that. But yeah, a lot of people saying, oh, this match shouldn't happen, they're past their prime. Well, of course they're past their prime. Sting is in his 60s, The Undertaker's in his mid-50s. But it's still Sting and The Undertaker. People are going to pay obscene amounts of money to see this match. And, I'm going to be planted in front of my television and, just enthralled by this, because these are my two all-time favorite professional wrestlers. And, it's the one dream match that has never happened that I have always wanted to see. So, yeah, if it happens, I am here for it. I will go crazy. I will revert to being a, 12-year-old kid jumping up and down in front of the TV. And, I'm not afraid to say it. I will probably cry when this match is over. But, and the again, more speculation that this year 2020 will be Undertaker's final year in the ring. But again, that's something that's been going around for the last 10 years at least. But if this match takes place, I could very well see it being career versus career, or both men's retirement matches. I mean, and for me personally, it can't get any better than that, to have the two of the biggest icons in the history of pro wrestling in there. I mean, this ranks up there with Hogan and Andre. It ranks up there with Hogan and Flair. It's just mind-boggling that it could actually happen now in 2020. So I'm hoping this rumor is true, but again, it's one of those wait and see things. And I'm sure we'll find out sooner rather than later, because WrestleMania coming up very quickly in just a couple of months here. So let's move into some AEW goings on. On AEW Dark, we saw Mel and Luther attack Awesome Kong and pretty much kick her out of the Nightmare Collective. And word is that she's out indefinitely with the injuries that they caused. So Nightmare Collective kind of falling apart a little bit. There's been some speculation that AEW is just going to kind of end that whole angle because it's not getting the response that they wanted. But I hope they don't. I mean, I kind of like it, and I'd like to see them carry it through to whatever conclusion they have in mind for it, but we'll have to see. Also on AEW Dark, they aired their first ever intergender match, and that was Kenny Omega and Riho versus Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford from the Jericho Cruise. Now this was wasn't really a part of the show. It was filmed at ringside on a handheld camera, and there was no commentary. It was basically an experiment, and the crowd that was there loved it. I thought it was a very good match. A lot of people not high on intergender wrestling. I get it. They don't like seeing men and women fight each other. I get that, but I think there's a place for it. I don't subscribe to the idea, it promotes domestic violence. Well, you know what? Any wrestling match promotes domestic violence. If you say only matches between men and women promote domestic violence, then you're completely discounting the existence of same-sex relationships. Two men can have a domestic relationship that is violent. Two women can have a domestic relationship that's violent. It's not just, domestic violence does not just happen in man and woman relationships. So, that's really not a valid argument, at least not to me. So, but Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford versus Kenny Omega and Riho. I thought it was a good match. The fans in attendance on the Jericho Cruise obviously thought it was a good match. So, I'm hoping we see more of it. I'm hoping it softens Tony Khan's position on it a little bit after seeing the response to this one. Because, I have no issue with it. There are some women that can go in there and hold their own with a lot of the guys. So, we'll have to see what happens from this point on as far as AEW and intergender wrestling. From AEW Dynamite, Britt Baker took on Yuka Sakazaki, and Baker, making pretty much full on making that heel turn. I mean, at the end of the match, Baker was victorious, and she basically did a curb stomp to the back of Sakazaki's head after she had put her mouth on the bottom rope and broke off some of her teeth. Now I'm assuming that was planned. I'm hoping that her teeth really did not get broken off like that. But it was again another kind of a difficult spot to watch, but definitely advances Britt Baker's heel turn. We also saw the Dark Order attack SCU and the Best Friends after their tag team match, and trying their recruiting efforts on this time on Orange Cassidy, and he pretty much refused, took a beat down himself. Christopher Daniels came out to make the save, and Dark Order just walked away at that point. So I'm interested in this Dark Order storyline. I really want to see where it goes. I'm very curious as to who this Exalted One is. There's so much speculation out there. A lot of people thought it would be Marty Scurll. That's pretty much been discounted, by the Young Bucks. I believe it was Matt Jackson who said, it was never supposed to be Marty Scurll. A lot of people saying it could be Matt Hardy. coming in once his WWE contract is up. I actually saw earlier today on Facebook an interesting take on this one from a Facebook group called the Real Wrestling Community. One of their admins throwing out there, what if it's Taz recently signed by AEW? So then I think that would be an interesting twist on this story. You know, Taz in that kind of manager role as the Exalted One of the Dark Order. So we'll have to see how this one plays out. Also saw Kenny Omega finally accept the challenge from Pac, and it's going to be a 30-minute Iron Man match between these two in 3 weeks, and that'll be the Go Home Dynamite before their next pay-per-view Revolution. Also saw Moxley kind of take a little bit of revenge on the Inner Circle, took out Santana's eye with a car key, the way that Jericho took out Moxley's eye with the spike from his jacket. And that's going to lead to what they're calling an eye for an eye match this coming week. I'm interested to see what that is. I mean, obviously they're both going to be wearing eye patches, so that should be a great match, though, with Moxley and Santana. I can't wait for that one. And then we also saw Nyla Rose attack Riho backstage, and this was after Kenny Omega accepted Pac's challenge. Pac kind of had Riho cornered backstage, made it look like he was going to attack her, and then after Omega finally accepted the challenge, he said, "I'm a bastard, but I'm not a monster. I'm not going to put my hands on a woman. I'll leave that to her," referring to Nyla Rose, who came out from behind the curtain and powerbombed Riho on top of the table that was there. The table didn't break, which was kind of a funny spot. I think I'm pretty sure it was supposed to break like tables normally do, but Riho so light. I think Nyla would have had to slam her down so hard she probably would have injured her had she slammed her hard enough to put her through the table. So, we are apparently going to see that match with Nyla and Riho this coming week, along with the Mox and Santana match. And we've got a tag team title match coming up this week, SCU, with their getting their rematch between Omega and Page. This one should be interesting with all of the dissension with Page and the Elite. So we could see SCU regaining the tag team titles this coming week. Some New Japan news. They had their New Beginning in Osaka event, which was the kind of the culmination, the final event of their New Beginning tour that they've been on. Jon Moxley retained the IWGP US title against Minoru Suzuki, and then was attacked by Zack Sabre Jr. after the match and choked out. So I'm guessing that's going to be Mox's next opponent for the IWGP United States Championship. Naito retained the heavyweight and intercontinental titles against Kenta, and then challenged the junior heavyweight champion and his LIJ stablemate Hiromu Takahashi for the New Japan Anniversary show. Now on that show, it's tradition the heavyweight champion takes on the junior heavyweight champion. Takahashi did accept, so that should be just a ridiculously good match between Naito and Takahashi. It was also announced that New Japan will be returning to Madison Square Garden in New York in August for an event called Wrestle Dynasty on August the 22nd. Getting into some Impact news, we saw the reemergence of Su Yung after a match with Rosemary. Rosemary basically fought Susie to the back and brought her to the staircase where Su Yung was hung by Havoc last year, and kind of reawakened all those memories. And we saw the reemergence of the Su Yung character. So I like this whole storyline. I like this part of Impact a lot, where they kind of, it's kind of that supernatural type storyline. And I know there's people out there that kind of roll their eyes at it, but I find it entertaining. I find it interesting, and I like that they've kept it going for this long. Like I said, the whole rivalry with Su Yung and Havoc and Rosemary and James Mitchell has been going, since last year. And you've had a number of other Impact knockouts, kind of in and out of this storyline, but that core group, that it has been going for a long time, and it's still, to me, a very good storyline. It's keeping me interested, so I'm really looking forward to see where this one's going to go. So that's going to do it for news and rumors for this week. Right now, I am going to throw it over to my buddy Charlie G, and I gotta say before I throw to this segment, Charlie's been doing an awesome job with his indie reports. Can't thank him enough for being such a big part of the show Yeah, hope you guys are enjoying it. So right now I'm going to throw it over to Charlie G, and this is your Indie Cut.
Thank you, Tom, for that intro. And hey there, wrestling fans. I am Charlie G with your Indie Cut. And happy Pro Wrestling Day, everyone. And for you football fans out there, like myself, happy XFL 2 kickoff weekend. Let's begin with last night's action on February 7th at AIW's Built to Last show, featuring Hornswoggle defeating Super Opera, Alex Shelley losing in a submission match to Lee Moriarty. This match was an intense one, even going through the crowd. And Tom Lawler defeating Jeff Cobb with an ankle lock, one-legged crab, in what was a great match between these two. If you like grappling, these two were where it was at. For the AIW Tag Team Championship, the Philly Marino Experience retained against Bear Country, and what was a very good tag team match. And for the main event, they had a 6-man number 1 contenders match for the AIW Absolute Championship with Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham, Eric Stevens, Joshua Bishop, Mance Warner, Nick Gage, and Wheeler Yuta. This is a great 6-man match. Little of everything, and Bill Alfonso making yet another appearance while his man Matthew Justice was in Japan. He started throwing chairs onto Wes Barkley, who was Joshua Bishop's cornerman, hitting a double stomp in the corner. If you want to look it up on the AIW Twitter page, it is great stuff. Bishop came around to punish Fonzie for a bit, leading Bishop to pick up the win, landing a gut wrench pile driver on Wheeler Yuta. That is a great move. I haven't seen it before, but it looks very devastating, I must say. After the match, the owner came out saying that the title match between Bishop and champion Matthew Justice will be a no-rope barbed wire match on April 2nd. Yes, you guessed it, during WrestleMania weekend. Just to add to excitement. Now we head over to Freelance Send the Clown show at a sold-out standing-room-only Logan Square Auditorium here in Chicago, with over 400 people, a new record for Freelance. Congrats to them. As usual, they had a 6-person scramble match with Adius Cougar, Dan the Dad, Elena Black, Gregory Irons, Kobe Durst, Laney Luck, Ricky Shane Page, and Trip Cassidy, with Durst hitting a flying splash on the iron for the win, in a good pace match for the six people. Everyone got at their spot. It wasn't too rushed, wasn't too cheesy, so it was a good match. Next up was Warhorse in his 26th defense of his IWTV Independent Wrestling Championship against Eric Cannon, Isaias Velasquez, and Tony Dempin. With Warhorse landing a top rope double stomp to the back of Dempin's head after he had hit an outside cannonball on Cannon and Velasquez. This was a very cool four-way match. If you can find it, watch it. It was the second match of the night, I might say. In another title match, the Space Pirates retained their Freelance World Tag Team Championships in their 6th defense, defeating the Gym Nasty Boys with their tail whip air raid crash. My concern was the outcome. Space Monkey looked to have severely injured his right ankle. I hope he is fine by next weekend to make it to Warrior Wrestling 8, where they will be against the North for the Impact Tag Team Championships. Best of luck, Space Monkey. Then there was Project Monix took on Effie for the Freelance Legacy Championship, which ended in a DQ when Mike Wheeler came out to stop Monix from winning by submission over Effie. Wheeler demanded a title match against Effie and then ran off with the title, holding it hostage till the match is granted. Actually, it was kind of a fun bit. I don't know Mike Wheeler, but he sure is one to be reckoned with. For the main event, for the Freelance World Championship, my favorite, Kylie Ray, took on Robert Anthony with Frank the Ass Clown. Anthony came out with pants Rick Rude would be proud of, as he had Kylie Ray's face all over him. Anthony jumped the bell with a leg drop as Kylie did her normal head first slide in. As the ref was calling for the bell, Anthony was relentless to Kylie, landing German suplex after German suplex. It kind of looked like a Brock Lesnar or Seth Rollins match in the beginning. Kylie did get some offense in, but Anthony and Frank just kept punishing her, taking away her smile for most of the match. Once Frank was finally kicked out from ringside, carried off by 3 referees, which is actually the funniest bit of the whole match, Kylie was able to get some momentum until once again in a Kylie match, the referee gets knocked out in the corner. Get better referees, man. Anthony and Kylie started fighting out on the floor, thinking he could gain some mean advantage, but it was Kylie actually who got the advantage using the steel barricade, hitting Anthony's back at least 5 times, busting his head open badly, which hit underneath the ring apron. Kylie now was relentless, hitting 3 cannonballs in the corner and a chick kick chair headshot, which was awesome. But somehow Anthony was to get back his momentum and hit 2 Mandalorian drivers, only to be schoolgirled by Kylie for the win to retain her championship. It was a great hard-hitting match, and it was my match of the week. As Kylie tried to enjoy the win, out came Frank to jump her. As both men were about to do more damage, the lights went out, and a masked Craig Mitchell returned to help Kylie and run off the 2 bozos. Both hugged, and the show ended. This was yet another great show by Freelance. Their next show is on March 6th. No time or place was announced, or the name of the show, so I'll keep you posted. Time for some recap news from overseas. We begin with RevPro Raw Deal 2020 from February 1st. It featured Giselle Shaw defeating Taya Valkyrie, Dan Maloney defeating Rhino, and for the RevPro Undisputed British Tag Team titles, the Legion with Rampage Brown and the Great O'Karn retained against the Nick of Charlie Carter and Osen Delaney. Their next night, live at the Cockpit 49, where Sons of Volta defeated my buddy Carlos Romo. Come on, Carlos. Taya Valkyrie defeated Chikara, and Mark Haskins defeated Kyle Fletcher. And in the SWE World Heavyweight title match, David Starr retained against Rampage Brown. It's nice to see some of the more known names performing at these shows, and still working with RevPro. Next we go to EVE, reigning after Queendom on the 1st, where the EVE Tag Team Champions, the Medusa Complex of Charlie Evans and Millie McKenzie, retained against Team LLL with Ali James and Clementine. In their main event for the EVE International title, it was a 4-way match with Sami Zayn defeating champion Jamie Hayter, Nina Samuels, and Sky Smith's son to become the new EVE International Champion. Now let's go down to Progress Chapter 102, Bang Tidy from February 2nd, where Mark Andrews defeated Ilya Dragunov. Paul Robinson retained his Progress Produs title against Danny Jones by TKO. Jordan Devlin and Scotty Davis defeated the Anti-Fun Police of Chief Deputy Dunn and Los Federals Santos Jr. to retain their Progress Tag titles. For the Progress Women's title, there was a 3-way match with Ginny retaining against Danny Luna and Giselle Shaw. And in the main event for the Progress Unified World title, Cara Noir retained against Chris Brooks, which I'm sure was a great show by Progress. Finally, we end our trip from Stardom on February 8th. There was an Artists of Stardom title match, which is their 6 women tag titles, where Donna Del Mondo defeated the Queen's Quest to become the new champions. And a little bit of fun news. Some of the Tokyo Joshi Pro roster were featured in the latest episode of SWAT on CBS. Check out the clip if you can. It was a fun segment, even if you don't know who the wrestlers are. Next week, I will recap some AAA action from tonight's show, February 8th, and maybe even some from the CZW show, along with some other news or shows that pique my interest. Thanks for listening or watching. This is my 5th entry, so I hope all of you are liking my edition, and that you all or more can join us for next week for our live broadcast at Warrior Wrestling 8th on the Podbean app. Well, that's a wrap for me. Happy wrestling, everyone, and back to you, Sam.
All right, thanks a lot, Charlie. That is your Indie Cut with Charlie G. And nice shirt, by the way. If anybody liked that shirt that Charlie was wearing, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/CatchHookShoot. Pick one up for yourself. That's one of my favorites over there. So yeah, thank you again to Charlie for being such an awesome part of the show these last several weeks since the beginning of 2020. So moving into the next segment of the show, last week this was kind of a fun segment. This week not so much. It's basically just calling out the some of the jerks on the internet wrestling community, and you know what I'm talking about. This is the Troll of the Week. Alright, so this week with the Troll of the Week, it's back to business as usual. You know, last week it was kind of lighthearted with CM Punk asking how he gets an interview as the new WWE president and things like that. And this week, you know, it's back to calling out the assholes of wrestling Twitter, and in this case, it is PW Stream. And, you know, and this is supposed to be a wrestling journalism page, whatever. It's at PW Stream. And you know, what passes for journalism nowadays is just ridiculous. You've got, you've got so-called journalists doing articles on who's got the best butt in WWE, and, you know, all kinds of just stupid garbage. I mean, you know, if you want to be a wrestling journalist, report on wrestling. I mean, why do you have to worry about what's going on in somebody's personal life and things like that? And what I'm referring to this time around is a post that these idiots put up on Twitter, a picture of Paige that she had posted on Instagram, and you know, basically saying, oh, is it me, or does it look like somebody's had some work done, quote unquote. And you know what, number one, who cares what somebody does with their own body to make themselves happy or things like that? And number two, why is it anybody else's business if they have or haven't had work done? I mean, you know, if she did, I'm sure she did it because she wanted to. So, I mean, I really don't understand why so-called journalists or news outlets think it's theirs or anybody else's business what an individual does in their private life to make themselves happy. I really don't understand it at all. You know, report on Paige being on backstage, report on her contract status, which they did a few weeks ago, which everybody did a few weeks ago when she re-signed. You know, report on appearances that she's making. No, you have to go the tabloid route. Oh, look, she got her boobs done. Who cares? Why is it anybody's business? It's not my business. It's not PW Stream's business. It's not anybody's business. The woman posted a picture, and you know, of her and her dog, and you're focused on her chest. That says a lot about you as a human being, quite honestly, whoever the individual was that made that post. It also says a lot about PW Stream as a media outlet, and I use that term very, very loosely. You know, whether somebody's a private individual, a celebrity, whatever it might be, their personal life is exactly that. It's personal. It's not anybody's business. And don't come at me with the excuse, oh, she was wearing a low-cut revealing shirt. Again, who cares? Why is it anybody's business how somebody dresses, let alone, what they do with their own body? I mean, come on. This is 2020, guys. And people are entitled to, number one, privacy, and to have a personal life, and they're entitled to do whatever they choose in that personal life to make themselves happy. So if Paige had work done and she's happy with it, more power to her. I mean, it's not my place or somebody else's place or PW Stream's place to judge or point it out or anything like that. And, they tried to backpedal and say, oh, I was just asking the question. Screw you. No, you weren't. You weren't asking a freaking question. You were pointing something out and waiting for the response. It's called clickbait. It's exactly what you did. So at least own it. At least have that much integrity to own it and say, yeah, you know what? We wanted to get a reaction out of this, because that's what happened. And so many idiots commenting on this. I mean, there was, one person, which I'll be nice and I won't put her Twitter handle out there, but basically saying, oh, she, more or less saying that because of this she's not a fan of Paige anymore. And I'm sorry, that is literally the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're not a fan of somebody because they had some type of cosmetic surgery. Then you weren't a fan of theirs to begin with. Hate to tell you. I mean, yeah, the actual tweet, looking at it here on my phone, they put up an old picture of Paige next to the Instagram picture. And it says, who she once was, who she is now. So sad. Looks like a totally different person from the natural, rebel, beautiful girl that conquered NXT and main roster once, and our hearts. Once my favorite female wrestler. You know what? You're a liar. First of all, she was never your favorite. If her, getting some quote unquote work done makes you not a fan of hers anymore. She was never your favorite wrestler, so you're just a straight up liar. But yeah, that's my one big pet peeve, is people who think they have a right to be judgmental and things like that towards total strangers. I mean, this is the bad side of social media. Yeah, it gives everybody a voice, but a very small, loud, vocal minority uses that voice to just shit on everything and everyone around them without consequence, because they know they can get away with it because they're hiding behind a keyboard. So, yeah, that's this week's Troll of the Week. PW Stream for their just stupid, classless post about Paige. And do better. You want to call yourself a journalist or a media outlet, then have some kind of journalistic integrity, because this ain't it. I'll tell you that much right now. So that's the Troll of the Week for this week. So let's get into something a little more upbeat, a little happier, a little more fun, and I am talking about the Fantasy Booker. Fantasy Booker for this week is one that, if you listen to the legend or the stories that go around, one that was supposed to happen, one that was pitched and then never really happened, and was apparently, supposedly, again, if you listen to the rumor and innuendo and the legend, so to speak, this was one of the contributing factors to Randy Savage leaving the WWE and going to WCW. This week's Fantasy Booker is the Macho Man Randy Savage versus the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. Now, the rumor is that Savage had pitched this rivalry to Vince McMahon, shortly before he left the company, because Shawn Michaels had just separated from Marty Jannetty. His singles career was really starting to take off, and Macho Man wanted to put him over. And you're talking about two of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. I mean, Randy Savage, the guy who had arguably the greatest match in WrestleMania history with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, taking on another guy who had one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history, Shawn Michaels. And I'm of course talking about the famous ladder match with Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10. And, this was at a time when apparently Vince McMahon wanted the Macho Man to kind of wind down his in-ring career, wanted him to transition into being an announcer. Macho Man not real keen on that, thought he still had, a few good years left in him, which he did. Obviously, he went to WCW and had, still had a great career after that. But, this was at a time when Vince was starting to push that quote-unquote new generation of stars, with people like Diesel and Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. That was kind of the core of that particular era in WWE. So, but yeah, Macho Man, like I said, wanted to help elevate Shawn Michaels, wanted to put him over because Macho Man saw him as the next guy in WWE, which of course he was. Went on to be one of the greatest stars of all time. But I mean, just to think about the two of those guys in the ring together, having a rivalry, having a WrestleMania match. I mean, my God, that realistically could have been the greatest match of all time, if it had ever happened. And it's fun to think about it, but it's also disappointing. It's like, man, that it realistically could have happened at that time, and just never got off the ground. Apparently, Vince didn't go for it, and that was one of supposedly the contributing factors to Macho Man showing up in WCW shortly thereafter. But yeah, just sit back and think about that one. Play that one out in your head. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Shawn Michaels. Yeah, again, I say this all the time about this fantasy booker segment, but what could have been? Like I said, could easily have been the greatest match of all time with these two guys in there. So that's the fantasy booker. Hope you guys are enjoying this particular segment, because I'm having fun putting it together. I love just playing out wrestling matches in my head, just using my imagination, like, oh, it would be so cool to see this guy versus this guy, whether it's from different eras or different companies, just matches that have never happened, or even if they have happened, like Sting's fought The Undertaker before, but it was in WCW before Mark Calloway was The Undertaker. It was Mean Mark Callis versus Sting, and, both of them still very, very young at that point. And just, yes, the two individuals, Steve Borden and Mark Calloway, have had a match before, but Sting and The Undertaker have never been in the ring together. That's the kind of things that I'm talking about with the fantasy booker. So, like I said, hope you guys are enjoying it. I'm enjoying putting it together. It is a lot of fun just to get to kind of, sit back and imagine these things, and, like I said, it's fun at the same time. It can be very disappointing, but, it is what it is. I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys are too. So moving into my last segment, whatever you want to call it this week, and that is the weekly hot take. Alright, so the weekly hot take this week, actually not such a hot take, because a lot of people online are saying the same thing, and that is the XFL. I don't know how many of you guys actually checked out some of the games this weekend. Like I said, I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon, so there's some more games going on right now, but I watched both games yesterday on Saturday, and the XFL is good. I mean, it is good quality football. The rule changes are not so extreme that it's, some kind of bastardized version of the NFL. The rule changes make sense. They do make the game go a little quicker. They make certain aspects of the game a little more exciting. And, I'm here for it. I'm liking it so far. It's not, the sports entertainment version of football that we saw in the first iteration of the XFL a number of years ago. This is, I think it's to be taken seriously. I found it very entertaining. I thought the games were good. The players were good. These are, skilled football players, and I'm here for it. I'm going to keep watching, and I was having a hard time saying, well, what team am I going to follow? Because you don't know who the guys are. They're brand new teams. I live in Chicago. There's no Chicago team, and I know they put out that little graphic of the U.S. map, and the region that should be that, if you live in this city, then this is your region. This is the team you should follow. Well, I'm sorry. I'm from Chicago. I cannot, in good conscience, support a team from St. Louis. I'm sorry, the Battlehawks are not my team. Maybe that's like asking me to support the Cardinals. Can't do it. But For me, the team that really caught my eye yesterday was the Houston Roughnecks, and I think they're going to be my team. When they first made the announcements and started announcing or putting out the logos and the uniforms. I mean, that's kind of all you have to go by with a brand new league like this. The Roughnecks are the ones that caught my eye. I like the name of the team. I like their emblem. I like their colors. I like their uniforms. So I think I'm going to be following the Houston Roughnecks. So and they had a great game yesterday. Great victory over the LA Wildcats. So the XFL is something I'm going to continue to watch, and I thought it was really good. I highly recommend it. If you're a football fan, check out the XFL, because I know a lot of people, they're kind of basing their thoughts on the XFL on the original XFL, which was not great. I mean, and it's through no fault of the players. It was just the way it was presented, and Vince McMahon was highly visible in that. He's not in this one, and you had some wrestling announcers doing some of the play-by-play, and I think that, again, through no fault of those announcers, because they were out there trying to do their jobs, but I don't think people took it too seriously, and some of the rule changes in the original XFL were just kind of goofy, and but this time around, I think I think it's the real deal. I mean, I like it. So I'm hoping it survives. I'm hoping it keeps rolling, because thus far, after 1 day's worth of games, as I'm recording this, it's legit. It's good quality football. So if you haven't checked out the XFL yet, check it out. I mean, it's good. So that is the weekly hot take, and I just want to mention right here real quick, coming up next Saturday, February 15th, 7 p.m. Central Time, Warrior Wrestling 8. You guys saw and heard my interview with Steve Tortorello last week, the promoter for Warrior Wrestling. This is just going to be a ridiculously stacked show. And myself and Charlie G will be doing live play-by-play on the Podbean app. Download it. Get the links are up on our social media pages. Check if you can't be in the arena, can't get it on Fight TV for whatever reason. Download the Podbean app. It's free. It's free to listen, so it won't cost you a dime. You can hear the live play-by-play from myself and Charlie, but you can pick up your tickets at warriorwrestling.net. Pay-per-view is on the Fight app. After the show, it'll be available on demand on the High Spots network, and again, live audio play-by-play on the Podbean app. There is no excuse not to check this show out in one way or another. And me and Steve talked about it last week. If you're going to be in the arena and you want to hear some commentary while you're at the live show, download the app and, listen while you're there. Like I said, it's free. Not going to cost you anything. So download the Podbean app, get in on the live broadcast. Me and Charlie had a great time at the last Warrior show doing commentary, and this time's going to be no different. I'm going to run down the card here real quick. We've got a 6-man tag team match. The Stronghearts taking on the Rascals. Brian Pillman Jr. taking on Bully Ray. They've had an interesting exchange on social media the last couple of days, so I cannot wait to see this one. Really, two of my favorite guys in the business. Brian Pillman, I mentioned it last week. He is the reason I watch MLW. For the most part, he is my favorite up-and-coming wrestler. He's a 2-time Rookie of the Year. I'm not quite sure how that works, but 2-time Rookie of the Year. And Bully Ray, just one of the all-time greats in tag team and as an individual. Alex Shelley versus Ren Narita is going to be a crazy match. The North versus the Space Pirates, guys, this match is just going to be fun. I mean, if you're not familiar with the Space Pirates, look them up. The gimmick sounds ridiculous, like me and Steve talked about last week, but when you see them, it works, and they're just a lot of fun. Cavernario versus Templario is going to be a crazy lucha-style match. The Ego Robert Anthony with Frank the Clown is going to be taking on Warhorse. My personal pick to steal this show, Daga versus Jonathan Gresham. I cannot wait to see this match. I can't wait to call this match. It's going to be amazing. Then the main events on this show for the Warrior Wrestling women's title and men's title, we've got 2 War of Attrition matches. Now, if you don't know what a War of Attrition match is, it's an 8-person match. Starts off as an 8-person tag, 4-on-4. Losing team is eliminated. The team that's left splits into 2 standard tag teams for a 2-on-2 match, and for the second fall. After the second fall, the losing team is eliminated again. The winning team goes 1-on-1 for the championship. So the 8 competitors for the women's War of Attrition match for the Warrior Wrestling women's title are the champion Tessa Blanchard, Ray Lynn, Taya Valkyrie, Kylie Ray, Big Swole, Tasha Steeles, Madison Rain, and Britt Baker. This is just crazy, the amount of talent in this match and the promotions that are represented. I mean, you've got AEW, Impact, NWA, Independence with Kylie Ray, Wow Women of Wrestling with Ray Lynn, and Tessa Blanchard, of course, the not just the Warrior Wrestling Women's Champion, but the Impact World Champion. So this match is going to be just crazy. And then for the Warrior Wrestling Men's Championship, we are guaranteed a new champion. Right now, the current Warrior Wrestling Champion is Brian Cage. Of course, with the bicep injury he's got right now, he had surgery last week. He's out for at least a couple of months. So he will be relinquishing the title and presenting the championship to the winner of this War of Attrition match. And the participants in this are Andrew Everett, Alex Zane, Black Taurus, Aramis, Sam Adonis, Michael Elgin, Lance Archer, and if that wasn't enough, in the 8th spot, Cage gets to pick his own replacement from all of the talent that's on the show that night. And it could be literally anybody. I mentioned to Steve last week, what if he decides to choose the winner of the Women's War of Attrition match and, could end up with a double champion for Warrior Wrestling. Who knows? Anything is possible. He could pick literally anybody on the card. Brian Pillman Jr., Gresham, one of the Rascals, one of the Stronghearts. He could pick Space Monkey from the Space Pirates. Who knows? We could see a monkey as the Warrior Wrestling champion. So anything literally can happen in this event. And same rules. Starts off 4-on-4, then 2-on-2, then 1-on-1. A 3-fall match, and we are guaranteed a brand new Warrior Wrestling champion. So I cannot wait to call this event next week. Like I said, go to warriorwrestling.net, get your tickets. The VIP Fan Fest before the show starts at 5 p.m. And you have an opportunity to meet every single wrestler on the show, get their autograph, get a picture. I'll be there recording content for the show. There'll be other podcasts there. There'll be vendors there selling the vendors that they have sell some cool merchandise, from action figures to title belts. A lot of cool stuff. I mean, come out and check it out. If you're in the Chicago area, if you're going to be in the Chicago area, go to warriorwrestling.net, get yourself a ticket, get out to the show. It is one of the best times you will ever have as a wrestling fan. And, it's Valentine's Day weekend. If your significant other is a wrestling fan, this is the perfect gift, and it's not going to break the bank. Warrior Wrestling prices for their tickets and for their Fan Fest are unbeatable. They really are. The Fan Fest is $100, but you get to meet 40 wrestlers and, 40 top wrestling stars. I mean, it's worth every penny. So, like I said, get to warriorwrestling.net for your tickets. If you're not in Chicago, you want to check out the event, it'll be on the Fight app, and then afterwards it'll be on demand on the High Spots Network. And, if you're not near a TV, not in Chicago, can't get to the event, download the Podbean app, 100% free. Listen to the live audio play-by-play, or even if you are in the arena, as I mentioned before, and you want to hear some commentary while you're watching it live, get the Podbean app, pop your headphones in, listen to me and Charlie G calling all the action. It's going to be a great time. So with that, I'm going to sign off for today, and like I always have been saying since the beginning of this year, guys, pay attention to the people that are close to you. Let the people that are important to you know how important they are. Show them how important they are. Don't let a day go by without saying or doing something to let them know what they mean to you. And let go of your pride. Say I'm sorry. Say I love you. Forgive people their imperfections, and just enjoy and cherish the people that are important to you. That's that's the message I want to leave everybody with. Pretty much that's pretty much going to be my message every week, ending this show. And I have my reasons for this new ending that I've been doing the last several weeks, and I won't get into all that, but just like I said, let the people that are important to you know how important they are. Tell them, show them, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So with that, I'm going to sign off for right now. Hope everybody has a great week. Make sure you check out Warrior Wrestling next Saturday, and I will talk to you guys soon.